of Radyo Pilipinas World Service, the international broadcast station of the Presidential Broadcast Service, Bureau of Broadcast Services. Aired daily from 0200 to 0330 UTC through the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 megahertz, 15.640 megahertz, 17.665 megahertz. PBS Radyo Pilipinas World Service serves as a bridge on air, delivering timely news, information, and public service. PBS Radyo Pilipinas World Service, bringing Filipinos across the globe closer to home. PBS Radyo Pilipinas World Service expanded its online presence. Besides our shortwave broadcast, PBS Radyo Pilipinas World Service can also be heard via live audio streaming. Just download eBox PBS receiver on Google Play Store from your Android phone or via App Store from your iPhone. You can also watch our broadcast via Facebook and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Radyo Pilipinas World Service, the international broadcast station of the President. Service, Bureau of Broadcast Services, bringing Filipinos across the globe closer to home. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is now fully digital, delivering news, information, entertainment, and variety of programs through your social media app. Follow, like, and share Radyo Pilipinas World Service Facebook page and Radyo Pilipinas World Service YouTube channel. Download PBS Audio Receiver app for continuous audio streaming of programs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Radyo Pilipinas World Service online, serving the Filipino and the global community with unfading commitment.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline, Malacanang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacanang, and here are the news. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. emphasized the importance of peace and cooperation between the national government and the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or BARM, as key drivers of the region's steady development. Speaking during the BARM's 7th founding anniversary celebration at the Sharif Kabunsuan Cultural Complex in Cotabato City, President Marcos said progress being experienced in the region is the result of unity, dialogue, and sustained collaboration among stakeholders. The creation of BARM marked a significant chapter in the country's history, he said, noting that it was not only a milestone for Muslim Mindanao but also for the entire Republic of the Philippines. The President cited the gains achieved since the enactment of the Bangsamoro Organic Law in 2018 and the formal inauguration of BARM in 2019. President Marcos said the establishment of BARM demonstrates the collective commitment of the government, the Bangsamoro people, and the international community to peace, unity, and progress. He also noted that the creation of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, or BTA, laid the foundation for self-governance in BARM. Over the past years, President Marcos said institutions in BARM have been strengthened and the aspirations of Muslim Filipinos have been supported. The President also underscored the deepening partnership between the national government and the Bangsamoro government, urging regional leaders to align local initiatives with existing national programs to maximize development gains. He made a call as he acknowledged that much more needs to be done. The President reaffirmed the national government's commitment to assist the BARM in expanding livelihood and economic opportunities, raising the standard of living and ensuring inclusive growth. He also expressed optimism about the region's future, citing visible improvements and a growing sense of hope among residents as peace takes root. Peace remains the foundation of progress, he said, calling on all stakeholders to safeguard the gains achieved through unity and cooperation. President Marcos added that the upcoming BARM elections present an opportunity to strengthen democratic leadership that is accountable and responsive to the people. He urged Bangsara leaders to build a system of governance anchored on accountability, participation, and shared responsibility, noting that the BARM has the advantage of shaping institutions that avoid past governance pitfalls.
It marks an important chapter in our nation's history, not just the history of Muslim Mindanao, but of the entire Republic of the Philippines. And it is a landmark in our fight to achieve genuine progress and unity. It is proof that sacrifice, dialogue, and unity are the keys to lasting peace. It shows that public service becomes more meaningful when it is carried out in the spirit of solidarity and collaboration. Take advantage of those national programs. Gamitin ninyo yung mga national program to bring it here to Bangsamoro. And that way, if we work together, as we all know, whenever everybody works together, there is a synergy. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. And so that's what we should do together. And that's what we will always be doing with the Bangsamoro government. My fellow Filipinos, we have come a long way. Still, there is work to be done. Peace is the vital foundation for progress. It is our shared responsibility to harness peace to further develop the region. We aspire to further strengthen a leadership that truly serves the people, one that reinforces democracy and accountability. This is the kind of governance that we should pass on to the next generation. A government rooted in accountability, a system strengthened by participation, and a nation guided by shared responsibility. My fellow Filipinos, we must stand as guardians of the progress that we have made through peace. Let us always choose unity and cooperation over division.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline, Malacanang.
In related news, the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity, or OPAPRU, said the government has turned over about 30 million pesos worth of pamana infrastructure development projects to conflict-affected areas in Barangay Nusa, Balindong, Lanao del Sur. OPAPRU Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. in a statement said these projects aim to convert these locations into hubs of economic resilience. Pamana, or the Payapa at Masaganang Pamayanan, is the agency's flagship development program for conflict-affected areas. Galvez led a turnover of development projects which include a fish landing port worth 15 million pesos and the groundbreaking ceremony for a water system project also worth 15 million pesos on January 16. These infrastructure investments totaling 30 million pesos serve as concrete manifestations of the government's promise to bring the dividends of peace and development in communities across the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. For years, he said, fisher folk faced strong waves and uncertain incomes, but the new facility would serve as a gateway to wider markets. He said a water system represents life and dignity and ensures that no family would be forced to walk long distance just to secure clean water.
Dateline, Malacanang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has received updates on the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, monetary policy actions and the country's economic outlook, the Presidential Communications Office, or PCO, said Wednesday. This came after President Marcos met with BSP Governor Eli Remolona Jr. at the Malacanang Palace. In a statement, the PCO said Remolona briefed President Marcos on the Monetary Board's, or MB's, decision in December 2025 to reduce the BSP's key policy interest rate to 4.5% from 4.75% in October of 2025 as part of efforts to support economic activity amid easing inflation pressures. The MB, the BSP's highest policy-making body, also lowered interest rates on overnight deposits to 4% from 4.25% as well as an overnight lending facilities to 5% from 5.25%. The central bank likewise noted that its current monetary policy easing cycle is nearing its end, signaling a more measured approach moving forward as it continues to assess domestic and global economic conditions. During the meeting, the World Bank's outlook for the Philippine economy, which anticipates a recovery in growth over the next 2 years, was also discussed. The PCO said investment is also seen to pick up as public infrastructure projects resume and recent liberalization reforms further improve the country's business environment. To ensure long-term and inclusive growth, the World Bank emphasized the need for low-income and middle-income regions to continue growing faster than Metro Manila.
Dateline Malacanang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. Wednesday led a granting of incentives to Filipino athletes who won medals at the 33rd Southeast Asian or SEA Games in Thailand, announcing palace-funded cash rewards that effectively double the incentives mandated under Republic Act or RA 10699. During the parangal at pasasalamat sa mga bayaning atleta ceremony held at the Foro de Intramuros in Manila, President Marcos hailed the athletes' discipline, sacrifice, and contribution to nation building. The president noted that about 2,000 Filipino athletes, the country's largest SEA Games delegation to date, represented the Philippines in the regional meet last December. Under the incentive program, the Office of the President will match the cash incentives provided under RA 10699, granting 300,000 pesos for gold medalists, 150,000 pesos for silver, and 60,000 pesos for bronze, on top of incentives from the Philippine Sports Commission or PSC, with support from the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation. Each medalist also received a presidential citation, while 10,000 pesos was given to athletes who won medals in other international competitions outside the SEA Games. President Marcos singled out athletes with historic achievements, among them Alex Ayala, the first Filipina in 26 years to win a SEA Games gold in women's singles tennis. EJ Obiena, who secured his fourth SEA Games gold in men's pole vault, and the Philippine women's national football team, which won the country's first SEA Games gold in women's football. Agatha Wong, who bagged her sixth SEA Games gold medal in wushu, and five-time boxing gold medalist Yumer Marshall joined President Marcos and other officials at the presidential table during the ceremony. President Marcos reaffirmed the administration's commitment to sports development, citing expanded grassroots programs, improved facilities, and stronger support for athletes competing on the global stage. The president was joined by First Lady Luis Araneta Marcos, PSC Chairperson John Patrick Gregorio, and Philippine Olympic Committee President Abraham Tolentino.
It is always an honor and a joy to be surrounded by high-achieving athletes like we have today. You are a shining example of what can be done with discipline, with commitment, with passion, with sacrifice, and it shows that we can achieve what others might think is impossible. Pinagdiriwan natin ngayong araw ang dangal, tibay ng loob, at pambihirang kakayahan ng atletang Pilipino. At sa pagkatapos ng kompetisyon, hindi naman ninyo kami binigo. Nakuha ng Pilipinas ang ika-6 na ranggo at kagaya ng nabanggit nga ng ating Olympics chairman, dapat mas mataas pa yan. Pero di bale, babawi nga tayo. At bukod pa roon, nakamit natin ang 277 medalya. Mas maraming medalya kumpara nung nakaraang 2023 at 2021 na SEA Games. Buong pagmamalaki namin kinikilala ang husay at galing na ipinamalas ninyo. Ngunit, may medalya man o wala, panalo kayong lahat sa puso ng isang bayan ng Pilipino. Maraming salamat.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacanang.
let us temporarily interrupt our Dateline Malacanang news to give way to the speech of Executive Secretary Raul Recto as he represents Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. in the attendance to the awarding ceremony of the Outstanding Young Men or TOYM 2025 at the Kalayaan Hall in the Malacanang Palace.
Solicitor General Attorney Darlene Marie Berberabe, JCI Philippines National President Felix Benson Chua, our distinguished TOYM awardees of the Philippines for 2025, fellow workers in government, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. It is an honor to join you today on behalf of His Excellency President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. at the Outstanding Young Men and Women Awards 2025 awarding ceremony. While the President could not be with us in person, he asked me to convey his warm greetings and his message to everyone here. He is most especially proud of today's awardees, young Filipinos whose work reflects the values and aspirations of our country. Allow me now to share his message. Again, a pleasant morning to all. Since its establishment in 1959, the Outstanding Young Men and Women TOYM Awards has become a reminder that age is never a barrier to excellence. For more than 6 decades, the TOYM has recognized young Filipinos who choose to uplift communities and shape our country's future. The theme of this year's celebration could not be more fitting. Excellence in action, building a better tomorrow. In this age of the bagong Pilipinas, excellence must be in our every endeavor so we can have a lasting impact on the lives of our fellow citizens. Today, we honor young Filipinos whose work has been driven by courage, conviction, and of course, excellence. We recognize Attorney Bagilat for using his legal mind to defend indigenous peoples and to ensure that their rights are embedded into our legal and educational systems. We celebrate Mr. Judisio, an innovator who partnered with 8 communities in Zambales to restore forests and build livelihood that respect both people and our planet. We also honor Dr. Aruta, a pioneer who connected climate change and mental health to build an institution that shines a light on how environmental loss affects our well-being, especially in the global south. And we commend Dr. Onda for being the first Filipino to reach the Emden Deep, the 3rd deepest point on Earth, for leading scientific expeditions in the West Philippine Sea, and for leading critical research on marine plastic pollution and microbial ecology. Each of you truly proves that leadership demands a deep sense of purpose. And I am glad that you are all here to share that purpose and your talents with your fellow Filipinos. Through your work, and more importantly, the impact you have created, I am confident that the Philippines is in good hands. In you, we see an emboldened generation that is guided by purpose and committed to service. To our awardees, continue to lead with integrity and act with compassion in your respective fields. The nation awaits your next triumph. To the Junior Chamber International Philippines and the TOYM Foundation, thank you for keeping this tradition that challenges our youth to serve and succeed. To all young Filipinos watching, I hope these awardees inspire you to hold yourself to the highest standards in everything you do. Always keep in mind that excellence becomes possible when we choose to use our talents in the service of others. Again, congratulations, and may we never lose sight of the reason why we do this work, why we serve, and why we wake up each day, and that is to build a better tomorrow for all. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay ang ating TOIM awardees. Mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas. That was the message of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. Let me congratulate our awardees. Your stories reinforce the importance of service, commitment, and care for others. Kayo ang larawan ng bagong Pilipino. May disiplina, may husay, at may pagmamahal sa bayan. Maraming salamat po at magandang araw sa inyong lahat.
You just listened to Executive Secretary Ralph Recto as he delivered Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s message at the awarding ceremony of the Outstanding Young Man or TOIM 2025 at the Kalayaan Hall in Malacanang Palace.
Dateline Malacanang.
Moving on to our Dateline Malacanang news, the Department of Agriculture attributed the sharp decline in food poverty in the last quarter of 2025 to the sustained government efforts to secure food supply and stabilize prices. In a news release, the DA cited the latest Tugonang Masa survey by Octa Research, which showed a decline in self-rated food poverty from 49% to 30%, down by 19%. Octa Research said this represented roughly 5 million families and marks one of the fastest improvements in food poverty perceptions in the TNM series. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. said the results demonstrate that government efforts and interventions, such as the Benteng Bigas Meron Na program that aims to ensure adequate food supply and affordable prices, are reaching Filipino households. Chu Laurel said the President wants to sustain the 20 pesos rice program until the end of his term in June 2028. He also cited increased budget for farm and related infrastructures, including farm-to-market roads, cold storage facilities, food hubs, deep water ports, rice dryers, warehouses, and greenhouses to boost production, lower food costs, and increase rural incomes, which was approved by the President and by both the Senate and the House of Representatives. The DA said that while self-rated hunger rose from 11% to 16% in the fourth quarter, Octa noted that nearly 80% of affected families experienced hunger only once or a few times, indicating short-term or episodic food stress rather than chronic hunger. While economists acknowledge that sustaining the gains in reducing food poverty will require continued support for food production and price management, they also noted that the survey signals meaningful progress in strengthening household food security through consistent government action.
Dateline Malacanang.
In other news, the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, or CFO, partnered with migrant organizations, non-government organizations, or NGOs, and the Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, to develop a model retirement community in the Philippines to encourage overseas Filipinos and long-term migrants to return home and reintegrate into local communities. In a media briefing in Pasay City, CFO Secretary Dante Ang II said the initiative is in line with the CFO mandate to look after permanent and long-term migrants, which converges with the DMW mandate in terms of reintegration and in convincing Filipinos abroad to engage with the Philippines politically, economically, and culturally. Ang said the project, called Continuing Care Retirement Community, or CCRC, would serve as a big economic boost for the Philippines and a win for Filipinos overseas who want to eventually retire in the country. Ang said the project will be piloted in San Pablo City, Laguna, and hopefully expand to other places in the country later on. The CFO said the CCRC is also envisioned a social enterprise model where the diaspora and the migrants themselves are encouraged to own and manage the facilities. The agency said that Atika Overseas Workers and Communities Initiatives Incorporated, or Atika, will serve as the lead convener of the project and will lead the development of a Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, accredited training center for health care services. The Atika board chairperson, Estrella Año Nuevo, said the proposed CCRC, set to rise on a 14-hectare reserve property in San Pablo City, is also being developed with the DMW, National Federation of Filipino-American Associations, or NAFA, and the Sorol Baba Development Cooperative. The DMW, through its National Reintegration Center for Overseas Filipino Workers, will focus on the reintegration of contract workers and the promotion of the project through its workers' offices worldwide. The Sorol Baba Development Cooperative will act as partner cooperative for land acquisition, while the NAFA will lead awareness investment campaigns within the Filipino-American community. Ang said the initiative offers a win-win scenario, as migrants are expected to benefit from a lower cost of living and stronger family and community ties, while local areas gain investment and employment opportunities. Under the plan, overseas Filipinos will pool their savings through a cooperative structure, allowing them to collectively own and manage the retirement hub. NAFA National Chair Mariela Fletcher said that there are around 4.5 million Filipino-Americans in the United States, of which she said around 30% already expressed interest in retiring in the Philippines. Año Nuevo said the construction of the CCRC is targeted to begin next year, with full development expected within 5 years.
Dateline Malacanang.
Finally, for Dateline Malacanang, the Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, has confirmed that 8 overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, are safe after a fire razed a plastic manufacturing company in Namyangju, Paju, Gyeonggi-do, South Korea. In a social media post, Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak said the affected OFWs were employed in South Korea under the Employment Permit System, a South Korean government program that enables small and medium-sized enterprises to legally hire foreign workers, including Filipinos, primarily in the manufacturing, agriculture, and fisheries sector. On Sunday, the affected OFWs met with officials of the Philippine Embassy in Seoul, led by Ambassador Bernadette Cerise Fernandez, together with Labor Attaché Rosemary Duquez and Welfare Officer Cornelia Chanco. The OFWs were provided with relief aid and financial assistance, while the Philippine Embassy facilitated a passport application of those whose passports were lost or destroyed in the fire. Meanwhile, Kakdak thanked the South Korean government for its quick emergency response. He also noted that the DMW will continue to monitor developments and provide support to the affected workers.
Dateline Malacanang.
That is all for today's Dateline Malacanang for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This has been Bea Gaza de Guzman.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacanang.
Radyo Pilipinas World Service is now fully digital, delivering news, information, entertainment, and variety of programs through your social media app. Follow, like, and share Radyo Pilipinas World Service Facebook page and Radyo Pilipinas World Service YouTube channel. Download PBS Audio Receiver app for continuous audio streaming of programs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Radyo Pilipinas World Service Online, serving the Filipino and the global community with unfading commitment.
The Presidential Broadcast Service, Bureau of Broadcast Services, ushers in Radyo Pilipinas World Service, establishing a bridge on air for Filipinos living and working abroad and the international community. Radyo Pilipinas World Service reaches out to Filipino overseas workers, the Filipino diaspora, and foreign listeners all over the world through its online social media platforms via RP World Service Facebook page, YouTube channel, and live audio streaming. 24 hours hours a day, 7 days a week. Manned by seasoned production and technical personnel with passion and dedication. Produces and airs a variety of Filipino and English programs ranging from news and public affairs, business, sports, entertainment, audiovisual documentaries, public service, and presidential activities done here in the Philippines or abroad. Radyo Pilipinas World Service, through its online digital platform, is able to connect with Filipinos all over the world. Made possible under the direction and support of PBS-BBS, mandated to disseminate information on programs, agency policies, and establish reliable public service geared for the welfare and protection of overseas Filipino workers and Filipinos living abroad and their respective families. Breaking through time zones and geographical barriers, Radyo Pilipinas World Service, through its online digital broadcast, establishes a bridge on air for the Filipino overseas worker and the Filipino diaspora to connect with the motherland and reap the programs and services of government for their sacrifice for their families and valuable contributions to the Philippine economy, but most of all, for upholding Filipino values, culture, and unquestionable professionalism in their chosen field of work.
Radyo Pilipinas World Service is now fully digital, delivering news, information, entertainment, and variety of programs through your social media app. Follow, like, and share Radyo Pilipinas World Service Facebook page and Radyo Pilipinas World Service YouTube channel. Download PBS Audio Receiver app for continuous audio streaming of programs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Radyo Pilipinas World Service online, serving the Filipino and the global community with unfading commitment.
World News in 5.
Right now.
News and developments, making headlines around the world in 5 minutes. World News in 5, here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good day to all of our listeners here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This is World News in 5, and I'm your host, Steph Vicente. United States President Donald Trump said he spoke with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte during what he described as an amazing trip to Davos. According to BBC News, Rutte assured U.S. President Trump that if the United States is ever attacked, NATO allies would stand with it. He also said the alliance is stronger under Trump's leadership. When asked by reporters if this reassurance was comforting, U.S. President Trump said he hopes it is true and described Rutte as an honest and reliable leader. However, the U.S. leader raised concerns about Greenland, saying he wants the territory purely for security reasons. He added that Rutte is focused on security for everyone, both within NATO and beyond. Earlier, U.S. President Trump questioned whether NATO allies would come to the USS aid in a crisis, despite NATO's Article 5 rule, which says an attack on one member is an attack on all. Article 5 has only been used once, after the September 11 attacks in 2001. In other news overseas, United States President Donald Trump announced that he will not push through with the tariffs that were set to take effect on February 1. In a post on Truth Social, U.S. President Trump said the decision followed what he described as a very productive meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. According to Trump, the two sides have agreed on a framework for a possible future deal involving Greenland. The BBC reports the U.S. leader said the proposed agreement, if finalized, would benefit the United States and all NATO member nations. Because of this understanding, Trump said the planned tariffs for February 1 will no longer be imposed. He added that further talks are ongoing, including discussions about the so-called Golden Dome and its relevance to Greenland. The U.S. President said more details will be released as negotiations continue. He also named Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and other officials to lead the talks and report directly to him. And finally, the man who killed former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has been sentenced to life in prison according to public broadcaster NHK. The verdict ends a trial over an assassination that stunned Japan, a country where gun violence is extremely rare. The case also drew attention to the influence of a religious group linked to the suspect's motives. The attacker, Tetsuya Yamagami, shot Abe in broad daylight using a homemade gun while the former leader was delivering a campaign speech on a street in Nara in 2022. Abe had resigned as prime minister in 2020 due to health issues, but remained an active and highly influential political figure. Yamagami, now 45 years old, was arrested at the scene and later charged with murder and illegal possession. And that concludes today's edition of World News in 5 for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This has been Steph Vicente. Good day and stay safe, everyone.
World News in 5.
Right now.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes. World News in 5. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Radyo Pilipinas World Service is now fully digital, delivering news, information, entertainment, and variety of programs through your social media app. Follow, like, and share Radyo Pilipinas World Service Facebook page and Radyo Pilipinas World Service YouTube channel. Download PBS Audio Receiver app for continuous audio streaming of programs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Radyo Pilipinas World Service Online. Serving the Filipino and the global community with unfading commitment.
DFA Online. News and events from different Philippine embassies and consulates around the world. DFA Online. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good day, I am Win Tañano with today's DFA Online. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, has reaffirmed the Philippines' position on the West Philippine Sea and voiced support for government and elected officials following China's warning that they would pay the price for alleged provocations. In a statement, the DFA said it is performing their duties in defense of Philippine sovereignty, sovereign rights, and jurisdiction. It added that disputes between states should be addressed through established diplomatic channels, not public threats. The DFA's statement followed remarks by Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun, who accused Philippine Coast Guard West Philippine Sea spokesperson Jay Tariela of spreading disinformation. The department said it will continue asserting the country's position firmly and consistently anchored on the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and the 2016 arbitral ruling that upheld the Philippines' exclusive economic zone in the West Philippine Sea.
DFA Online. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
In our news, Philippine Ambassador Marie Charlotte Tang has formally presented her credentials as ambassador to the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia to President Taye Atske Selassie. During the ceremony, Ambassador Tang conveyed President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s greetings and reaffirmed the Philippines' commitment to strengthening its long-standing ties with Ethiopia. She also praised Ethiopia's rapid development and growing leadership in climate action, congratulating the country for being chosen to host the COP32 climate conference in 2027. President Taye welcomed the ambassador and recalled the strong people-to-people links between the two nations, sharing his experience of being taught by Filipino teachers in 1970s. Both sides expressed optimism as the Philippines and Ethiopia prepare to mark 50 years of diplomatic relations in 2027.
DFA Online. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
More news from the Philippine Service Post. Filipino artisans once again highlighted Philippine craftsmanship and design at France Biannual Maison and Objet Trade Fair held from January 15 to 19 at Paris Nord Villepinte. Led by Philippines Department of Trade and Industry Center for International Trade Expositions and Missions, the Philippine delegation featured 15 companies from across the country under Archipelago 3 banner, promoting Filipino creativity in the global home and lifestyle market. Officials from the Philippine Embassy in Paris visited the fair to show support for the exhibitors and encourage wider international participation. World-renowned Cebuano furniture designer Kenneth Cabonque also drew attention at the Philippine Pavilion with his innovative designs. The participation forms part of DTI's Design Philippines initiative, which aims to position the country as a leading Asian source of high-quality, design-driven home and lifestyle products.
DFA Online. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
And in Korea, Filipino basketball players in the Korean Basketball League took center stage during the KBL All-Star Games Futures Day as Team Asia defeated Team Rookie 82-79 in an exhibition match held at Seoul's Jamsil Indoor Stadium. The game highlighted camaraderie and sportsmanship, underscoring basketball's role in strengthening friendship and sports diplomacy between the Philippines and South Korea. Philippine Ambassador to South Korea Bernadette Therese Fernandez led the ceremonial opening free throw and also served as a judge in the slam dunk competition, showing the embassy's support for sports and youth engagement. Filipino standout Alvin Tolentino led Team Asia and earned Most Valuable Player honors as Filipino players drew cheers from embassy officials and members of the Filipino community. The Philippine Embassy hailed the event as a celebration of Filipino excellence and people-to-people ties between the two countries.
DFA Online. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
And it wraps up today's DFA Online. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, I am Win Banyano. Good day.
DFA Online. News and events from different Philippine embassies and consulates around the world. DFA Online. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Radyo Pilipinas World Service is now truly digital, delivering news, information, entertainment, and variety of programs through your social media app. Follow, like, and share Radyo Pilipinas World Service Facebook page and Radyo Pilipinas World Service YouTube channel. Download PBS Audio Receiver app for continuous audio streaming of programs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Radyo Pilipinas World Service Online. Serving the Filipino and the global community with unfading commitment. A focus on important affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. And you can watch this program on our Facebook and YouTube channel, Radyo Pilipinas World Service. And you can hear this broadcast on our audio streaming over PBS eBox receiver app, and also on our shortwave broadcast through following frequencies: 12.020 megahertz, 15.640 megahertz, and 17.665 megahertz. And this is your host, Jerome Toledo. Let's begin Front and Center on the Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
In January 2026, the Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs took a firm stand to support Philippine officials who were being targeted by public attacks and warnings coming from the Chinese embassy in Manila and the China Foreign Ministry. The tension reached a boiling point following a series of aggressive social media posts and diplomatic protests by China aimed at specific Filipinos, most notably by Philippine Coast Guard Commodore for the West Philippine Sea, Jules Targela. And what happened there? So the recent wave of attacks stemmed from the Chinese embassy's dissatisfaction with the Philippines' transparency strategy. And the Chinese embassy accused Targela of maliciously spreading disinformation and smearing China's image. And that event escalated when the embassy filed a diplomatic protest over a social media post featuring an image resembling Chinese President Xi Jinping. And I see that the social media post from the PCG Commodore resembling a cartoon image of Chinese President Xi. And on January 19, 2026, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun issued a stern warning that actions, if they continue their current stance, the Philippine officials will pay the price, for their actions if they continued their current stance on the West Philippine Sea issue. Other officials, including Senators Risa Hontiveros, Kiko Pangilinan, and Representative Laila de Lima, were also singled out by the Chinese embassy for their vocal defense of Philippine sovereignty. And just yesterday, January 21, 2026, the Foreign Affairs Department issued an official statement rebuking China's conduct and affirming its support for Filipino public servants. The Foreign Affairs Department stance was echoed by several lawmakers and analysts who pointed out that the Chinese embassy's behavior likely violated the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. So that's under Article 41 of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. So to discuss more of that, we will have the foreign policy expert and international studies expert in the program later on, but we're trying to get him on the line just shortly. But first, we will have a quick break here in the program, Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. When we come back, we will try to establish our communication with Professor Renato De Castro, a professor of the International Studies, and at the same time, he is a foreign policy expert from De La Salle University. So Front and Center will be right back shortly, right after these messages.
Mabilisang trivia, dagdag talino. Heto na ang Dagling Kaalaman.
Alam mo ba na ang Pacific Ring of Fire tahanan ng mahigit 75% ng mga aktibong bulkan sa buong mundo? Matatagpuan ito sa paligid ng Pacific Ocean at dito nagaganap ang pinakamaraming lindol dahil sa patuloy na paggalaw ng mga tectonic plates. Sa Pilipinas, bahagi tayo ng Pacific Ring of Fire kung kaya't madalas tayong makaranas ng pagputok ng bulkan at mga lindol. Meron tayong mahigit na 20 aktibong bulkan, kabilang dito ang Bulkang Mayon, Taal at Mount Pinatubo. Ilan sa mga pinakakilalang bulkan sa buong mundo.
Kaunting kaalaman na malaking dagdag talino. Abangan muli ang susunod na Dagling Kaalaman.
Paano nga ba mag-register para magkaroon ng schedule sa Bagong Pilipinas Presidential Action Center? Narito ang mga dapat gawin. Gamit ang iyong mobile device, pumunta sa eGov.ph app. Pwede itong i-download mula sa Apple App Store o sa Google Play Store. Gumawa ng account. Ilagay ang email address, valid mobile number, pagkatapos ay makakatanggap ka ng one-time code sa iyong email. Gamitin ang code sa eGov app para sa verification ng iyong account at ng mga impormasyong ibinigay. Congratulations! Ito na ang eGov.ph app account. Pwede mo na ma-access ang iba't ibang serbisyo ng gobyerno kabilang ang mga serbisyo sa Bagong Pilipinas Presidential Action Center.
Magandang araw, si Ding Dong Dantes po ito. Kapag may nag-aalborotong bulkan, meron akong reminder sa mga dapat nating gawin. Tandaan lang ang MMG. M, Makinig sa payo ng mga otoridad.
Huwag nang magpapaniwala sa sabi-sabi.
Lalo na sa fake news. M. Mahinahon na lumikas. Bago umalis, isara muna natin ang mga pinto at bintana para hindi pasukin ng abo ang inyong bahay. G. Go bag. Make sure na may nakahandang emergency go bag na may lamang damit, gamot, pagkain, tubig, pera at face mask. Madali lang tandaan, hindi ba? Mag-MMG ka lang kapag may nagpapadyang pagputok ng bulkan. #panatag ang may alam.
Mabilisang trivia. Heto na ang dating kaalaman.
Alam niyo ba na ang salitang gender ay mula sa Latin word na ang ibig sabihin ay uri o klase at hindi agad kasarian? Noong sinaunang Egypt, may mga babaeng naging pharaoh tulad ni Hatshepsut. Ang New Zealand naman ang unang bansa na nagbigay ng karapatang bumoto sa mga babae noong 1893. Dito sa Pilipinas, kinikilala noon ng mga babaylan, mga pinunong espiritual na kadalasang babae o gender fluid. At tandaan, ang gender equality ay kabilang sa 17 Sustainable Development Goals ng United Nations. Kaya ang pagkakapantay-pantay ng kasarian ay tungkulin nating lahat.
Kaunting kaalaman na malaking dagdag talino. Abangan muli ang susunod na Dating Kaalaman. Front and center. Front and center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome back to Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Still with me, Jerome Toledo. And while we wait for our guest for today, of the program Front and Center, as we are going to discuss about the continuous attacks of the Chinese embassy in Manila, as they have attacked officials, specific Filipino individuals or government officials, particularly or notably the Philippine Coast Guard Commander, as he is a spokesperson of the West Philippine Sea, Commodore J. Tariela. And what does this mean? So this recent wave of attacks against our officials stem from the Chinese embassy's dissatisfaction with the Philippines' transparency strategy. Okay, we now have on the line the foreign policy expert and international studies expert from De La Salle University, Professor Renato De Castro. Good morning, Professor De Castro. Thank you again for joining us in the program Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good morning, Jerome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to speak about these continuous attacks of China against our Philippine officials. But first, the recent attacks on Filipino officials are, I call it diplomatically inappropriate or crude as far as diplomacy is concerned, Professor René. So, do you see this aggression as sign of Chinese strength or a desperate reaction to the Philippines' success in the international court of public opinion, as they say?
Well, first of all, it's a direct violation of our sovereignty and basically challenging our right as a country to disagree with another country. So it's not only a violation of what we call the very essence of diplomacy, which is, of course, to convey a message in a very tactful manner. In a way, it's an attack on Philippine sovereignty. Commodore J. Tariela, as a government official, as a ranking officer of the Philippine Coast Guard, is simply doing his job, basically documenting and announcing to the Filipino people and to the international community Chinese maritime expansion, harassment, and coercive action against the Philippine Navy, the Philippine Coast Guard, and ordinary Filipino fishing boats. So why is China raising hell about this? We're entitled, as sovereign independent state, we are entitled to basically articulate our disagreement with China. China has no business telling us to stop what we've been doing and, of course, intimidate, harass a Philippine public official.
Also, Professor De Castro, China got irked when their Chinese president, Xi Jinping, was being depicted by what's depicted in like in a cartoon or a caricature, which made them angry. What do you say about that?
Well, first of all, according to Commodore J. Tariela, you have those caricature there, but he never said that he was referring to President Xi Jinping. And of course, at the end of the day, simply, the Chinese foreign ministry is simply showing how hypocritical they are. I don't know if you remember, last November, when Japanese Prime Minister Tsunai came out with a statement that the Taiwan contingency will be a Japanese contingency, and of course the Japanese will be involved one way or the other. You have the Chinese media, People's Daily, the Global, coming out with really outrageous and really cold caricature of Prime Minister Takeshi. So they've been doing it. Why can't other countries do it? And of course, in our case, again, going back to what Commodore Tariela said, he never said that those caricatures were President Xi Jinping. So that's really the height of hypocrisy. That's really the height of hypocrisy. China could do it, others country could not.
So meaning to say, Commodore Tariela can freely do, or as you know, he can express or depict any Chinese official the way he wants.
Yeah, well, the Chinese are doing it. Why can't we do it?
Okay, all right.
Well, of course, we're a free society. We're a free society. We can do it. In the case of the Chinese, obviously, those caricatures of, again, President Lai of Taiwan, Prime Minister Takeshi, and even President Ferdinand Marcos, the Chinese could not do it without any, of course, approval from the Chinese Communist Party.
But that's beyond that. The main story here is of China or China's expansion across the South China Sea, in the islands, in some other areas. They are calling it or branding it as their own, as they say, part of what they call 9-9 or 10-9.
As of course announced by, explained by Commodore J. Tariela, gave its annual report, and the report states that the Chinese Coast Guard, the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy, had been so aggressive to the point that the Chinese Coast Guard have deployed ships only about 23 nautical miles from the coast of Pangasinan.
Okay, so they're continuously encroaching our exclusive economic zones. They never stop. They never cease.
Never, of course. Again, and that's another point I would like to raise. They're accusing Commodore J. Tariela of, coming out with lies. And they're, especially from the criticism that was, of course, delivered by the Chinese Foreign Minister in Beijing, by the spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Ministry in Beijing. But interestingly, it's the Chinese, or the People's Republic of China, that is, of course, peddling what Associate Justice Cardio called the fake news of the 21st century. That is, of course, the 10-9, which is based on a lie, a blatant lie, that China has controlled the waters of the South China Sea since time immemorial. That's a blatant lie that, of course, been proven as a carnage by the 2016 Arbitral Tribunal ruling, using, of course, ancient Chinese maps, which basically tells the world that as far as Imperial China is concerned, or was concerned, Chinese territory, or the territory of the Chinese Empire, what we call Chungfu, the Middle Kingdom, only extended as far as Hainan Island. But the Chinese Communist Party is, of course, peddling the biggest lie of the 21st century. China has controlled and owned the waters of the South China Sea since time immemorial.
Okay. Okay, so still on the issue of Chinese attacks on government officials or Philippine government officials, Chinese embassy recently warned that Philippine officials would pay the price, as I quoted. Is it a literal threat of sanctions or gray zone escalation, or is it primarily a pure psychological warfare?
First of all, China has no business threatening Philippine government official of punishment because they're simply doing what they're doing. They're, of course, government officials that, of course, advancing and protecting Philippine national interests against, of course, China's maritime expansion. So, again, what's the point of punishing them, threatening them, if they're just simply doing the same job? We don't do it to Chinese diplomats who are, of course, openly violating the Vienna Convention of diplomatic practices and, of course, adopting or applying what we call wolf warrior diplomacy. Of course, they came out with a statement just reminding the Chinese to see that it's better rely on the normal diplomatic channel to address disagreements, but not to direct it on the Philippine public in a crude and blatant and rude language.
And we can sanction them because we did not anything wrong, Professor.
No, we don't, because we don't go down to their level. We cannot sanction them because we don't want to go down to their level.
Okay.
We want to adopt, basically, play the game according to the rules defined by what we call traditional diplomacy as codified by the 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Practices. We don't want to go down to their level.
And they will be sanctioned under the Vienna Convention, which is Article 41.
We cannot sanction them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because, of course, the convention is there, but you don't have any institution and it's the global society that will impose sanctions if you violate the Vienna Convention.
Okay.
So this is a case of really a matter of moral suasion. Some countries will, of course, declare those diplomats persona non grata, but we haven't declared any diplomat based in in the Philippines persona non grata. I have no knowledge that we have done it before.
And we can apply that kind of sanction, Professor De Castro.
Well, recently you have Chinese diplomats being declared persona non grata. One instance just recently happened in Paraguay, and the other one happened, I think, in a Baltic country. I can't remember whether it's Estonia or Lithuania, where, of course, Chinese diplomats were declared persona non grata and expelled from the country.
Okay, that's an interesting development there. So there's a similar case like that, and we will have to watch out on that. But going back here on this topic, Professor, you may see that the DFA struggles with this public-facing society direct attacks. Are there any public diplomacy reforms should the DA or the Foreign Affairs Department to adopt to better counter China's narrative since they have stepped up their game?
Well, we conduct public diplomacy, but the public diplomacy we conduct are usually directed to the other countries. I don't think the DFA has the capacity for conducting public diplomacy in Philippine society because that's a different ballgame. I don't think Filipino diplomats are trained to conduct public diplomacy within the Philippines. That's a totally different, art or trade that you would have to develop. But of course, in the case of the Chinese embassy, they're operating in a host country. So, and of course, historically, the Communist Party operates in a different level. For the Chinese Communist Party and the People's Republic of China, diplomacy and propaganda are basically linked together. Again, going back to China, when you go back after 1949, when of course the Chinese Communist Party actively encouraged revolutionary movement. So subversion, propaganda, and diplomacy went in hand when you talk about Chinese diplomacy since 1949.
Okay. Okay. You mentioned about earlier about the persona non grata sanction. So, do you consider that as a drastic measure to address these attacks by the Chinese embassy against our Philippine government officials, particularly PCG Commodore J. Tariela?
I will give the Department of Foreign Affairs the prerogative. I'm not a professional diplomat. I'm just an academic. So when it comes to that, I think I will basically rely on the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, to determine.
Okay.
Doing violates the very essence of decency in diplomacy, in the conduct of diplomacy.
Okay. Moving forward, Professor De Castro, what should Philippines have done, or what the Philippines can better do to address this continuous breach on our sovereignty?
To the bullet. China, of course, has the intention, the motive, the capabilities. Their diplomats are really trained to conduct what we call wolf warrior diplomacy, and this is something that we have to face as we confront China's maritime expansion in the West Philippine Sea, and of course, wolf warrior diplomacy being conducted against the Filipino nation.
Okay. All right. One last point before I let you go, Professor De Castro. So, recently we've signed a defense cooperation agreement with the United Arab Emirates, and also recently we had a Japanese one signed the defense cooperation agreement as well. So, has Philippines successfully moved away from, as I call it, weak link status, or are we still strategically vulnerable at this point in time, Professor De Castro?
Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, has the Philippines successfully moved from being a weak link status, or are we still strategically vulnerable? Because recently we had signed defense cooperation agreements with United Arab Emirates and Japan.
Well, I would say we are in the process of strengthening our diplomatic capabilities along with our defense capability through what they call developing security partnerships or strategic partnerships. Especially, of course, I would give more importance to Japan. Primarily because of our geography, the Philippines and Japan are part of what we call the first island chain. And of course, both the Philippines and Japan are confronted by a common security challenge, and that's, of course, China's maritime expansion in the South and East China Sea. So I would look at it in terms of a process.
It's a process that the Philippines will take regarding that. And also Japan and Philippines have a strong alliance when it comes in everything, not just in economy but also in defense. As we tread along with this threat coming from China, Professor De Castro.
Japan, just like the Philippines, is also being subjected by China to, with its wolf warrior diplomacy. Just remember the dramatic and Sino-Japanese diplomatic role last year. And of course, in the same cases in the Philippines. So literally, or figuratively, we are on the same boat together, Japan and the Philippines.
And we should work together now than ever, Professor De Castro. Anyway, thank you so much, Professor Renato De Castro, the International Studies expert and foreign policy expert, for joining us in the program as we discuss about recent developments involving our relationship with China. Thank you so much, Professor Rene, and have a good day. Hope to have you next time.
Sure. Thank you very much, and good morning to you. And again, good morning to our listeners.
And that was the foreign policy expert and international studies expert, well, from De La Salle University, Professor Renato. that, we now conclude this edition of Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service, together with our technical team, headed by Mr. Emilio Ginella. Also on our wildcast and audio streaming, we have Ms. Justine Otia. This is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is now fully digital, delivering you information, entertainment, and variety of programs through your social media app. Follow, like, and share Radyo Pilipinas World Service Facebook page and Radyo Pilipinas World Service YouTube channel. Download DBS Audio Receiver app for continuous audio streaming of programs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Radyo Pilipinas World Service online, serving the Filipino and the global community with unfading informative program in shortwave radio. Welcome, friends and listeners of Radyo Pilipinas. This is your host, Leo Magpayo. Today, we will be taking you to an informative tour of the province of Nueva Ecija. The province of Nueva Ecija is a landlocked province in the Philippines located in the central Luzon region. Its capital is the city of Palayan. Nueva Ecija borders from the south clockwise Bulacan, Pampanga, Tarlac, Pangasinan, Nueva Vizcaya, and Aurora. The province is known to be the tricycle capital of the Philippines. A tricycle, also called motorized tricycle, is a public utility vehicle that is the most popular means of transport in small towns and cities. Tricycles are built in a variety of styles, which differ from city to city, and are usually made locally by building a sidecar for the passengers and affixing it to an imported motorcycle. Usually, both the cycle and sidecar are covered, but not always by the same group. Nueva Ecija was established by Augustinian missionaries. The first mission was established in the town in 1595. The Augustinians abandoned their missionary work in 1636, maintaining only the mission in the town of Bongabon. At the turn of the 18th century, the missionaries resumed their evangelical work and redirected their efforts to the northeast towards rough, mountainous terrain inhabited by Ilonggos. In September 1 of 1759, King Carlos III of Spain issued a royal decree that ended the founding missions of Augustinians and transferred all Augustinian responsibilities in the settlements of Nueva Ecija to Franciscan friars. Through tribute collections and polo e servicio, or rendering of forced labor, the Franciscans constructed churches, convents, parochial schools, and tribunals. They also constructed roads and bridges to connect other settlements. In 1781, a simple irrigation system was constructed in the town of Pantabangan. This new farming technology contributed to the promotion of agriculture in the province. In 1799, King Carlos IV ordered the separation of towns and parishes of Upper Pampanga near the Sierra Madre Range, as well as coastal towns of Tayabas along the Pacific Ocean, and their organization into a corregimiento, or a political military administrative unit. Royal directives were implemented on April 25, 1801, and the corregimiento was named Nueva Ecija after the Spanish hometown of that period's Governor-General Rafael Maria de Aguilar, with Baler as its capital.
predominantly of Tagalog descent, due to its geographical location in central Luzon, a number of ethnic groups have migrated in Nueva Ecija. The Ilocanos and Pangasinenses to the north and the Kapampangans to the south. Nueva Ecija hosts a number of historical tourist spots as well as scenic destinations. The rest house of the Quezon family is located in this barrio, along the national highway going to Baler, Aurora. It is also the place of death of Mrs. Aurora Quezon, wife of former Philippine President Manuel Luis Quezon. A statue of Philippine hero General Antonio Luna astride a horse stands at the plaza in front of the cathedral on the exact spot where the brave general was assassinated in 1899 in Cabanatuan City that adopted him subsequently. Located in Kapintalan, Karangalan, the 5-hectare area blessed with a cool climate houses the monument of General Dalton and a tower that borders the provinces of Nueva Ecija and Nueva Vizcaya. Uphill is a world-wide memorial in black marble where a historical account of the war had been etched in English and Japanese. Located in the town of Bongabon, a 100-step stair leads to the church built by the Adarnista spiritual community on the mountaintop known as Mount Olivet, frequented by pilgrims who bathe in and drink the water of its springs, believing it to be medicinal. Built in 1974 along the Pampanga River to serve as reinforcement against flood and provide irrigation, additional electricity in the entire Luzon Island, the Pantabangan Dam was built by Filipino engineers under the supervision of the National Irrigation Administration. Pantabangan Dam is now one of the most visited tourist spots in the province. The place offers a scenic view of the surrounding area. Tourists will also appreciate the dam's engineering wonders. Cabanatuan City is also known as the Longaniza capital of the Philippines. Longaniza, or sausages, are made with pork meat. The Cabanatuan Longaniza is distinct because of its garlic flavor. You also would not want to miss the batotay. It's longaniza made with cow. The tinumis is the version of the dinuguan or pork blood stew. The tinumis is a stew of pork innards, usually lungs, kidneys, intestines, ears, heart, snout, and spicy dark gravy of pig blood, garlic, chili, and vinegar. Nueva Ecija is also known as the milk capital of the Philippines. The best tasting and freshest Carabao milk can be found in the province. The milk is also made into quesong puti or white cheese, one of the best tasting cheese in the world. Another product that Nueva Ecija takes pride of is their caramel flakes, and you can buy this nowhere else but at the Carmelite Monastery. The caramel flakes are made by the hands of the Carmelite sisters. So for sure you would want to meet the ladies behind the sweet caramel flakes. They don't normally go out as they are not allowed to mingle with non-Carmelites due to their religious practices. A number of festivals are celebrated annually all throughout the year in Nueva Ecija. The Taong Putik Festival, held in the town of Aliaga, is where at the crack of dawn, scores of mud-covered, barely dressed devotees make their appearance, asking for alms and candles from the wide-awake town folks. This practice mimics a biblical myth about St. John the Baptist, who was said to have done the same thing in his lifetime. A special mass culminates the occasion, reinforcing its spiritual nature to the people of Aliaga. Another festival is the festival. Cariton, which means a wood cart drawn is celebrated during the annual celebration of the founding anniversary of Licab town on March 28th. Cariton plays a significant part in the history of Licab. Don Dalmacio Esguerra, the town's founding father, used Cariton when he left San Nicolas, Ilocos Norte, until he finally settled and found this town in Licab. In fitting recognition of the significance of this very important farm equipment, the local government unit of Licab adopted Cariton Festival as the town's official festival. The event features a parade of colorfully dressed Cariton floats, search of outstanding Licabeños, agri-aqua trade fair, and beauty pageant. Then there is the Araquiao Festival, a unique and one of its kind in the Philippines. The festival is Nueva Ecia's very own theatrical cum religious presentation, similar to Zarzuelas during the Spanish regime in the country. The Araquiao Festival is traditionally held in the month of May in the town of Peñaranda. The festival dramatized the spread of Christianity in the country and the war between Christians and Muslims. Festival performers, 16 performers in each Araquiao group, sing, act, and dance while a brass band plays. The choice of songs and choreography varies, but the script has remained the same since the tradition started. The Tanduyong Festival is held in the city of San Jose. The city prides itself as the onion capital of the Philippines and is a leading producer of onion, garlic, rice, and vegetables. Every year on the fourth Sunday of April, the people of San Jose dance through the main street in a colorful, enchanting celebration of the blessing of the harvest. On Festival Day, the streets are filled with contingents of dancers outfitted in striking, multi-hued native costumes. Exotic rhythms of improvised musical instruments fill the air as the dancers gyrate and sway to the beat of life. Special activities included are beauty contests, tourism and trade fair, awarding ceremony, and cultural shows. And finally, there's the slippers or chinelas made in the city of Gapan, Nueva Ecija, find their way all over the country, lending credence to the city's claim to be the chinelas capital of the Philippines. Gapan commemorates their major with the Chinelas Festival on the anniversary of their cityhood. Beautifully crafted slippers await festival visitors bazaar along the highway. The major attraction of this festival, however, are the pairs of gigantic slippers displayed in a parade of floats. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, inviting you to come and visit Nueva Ecija, Philippines.
Tune in again next time for a more exciting and fun-filled adventure as we travel to the beautiful Philippines.
Public service announcement. Maging handa sa oras ng sakuna. Para sa iyo at sa iyong pamilya, laging siguruhin. Go bag ay nakahanda at naglalaman ng mga sumusunod. Ilang pirasong damit, ready-to-eat na pagkain at inuming aabot ng 3 araw. Personal na gamit para sa inyong hygiene. First aid kit kabilang ang alcohol, bandages, gamot sa lagnat, ubo at sipon. Pati na rin ang inyong vitamins at maintenance medicines. flashlight, lighter o posporo. Huwag kalimutan ang mga charger o power bank. At higit sa lahat, isama ang mga importanteng gaya ng inyong mga legal na dokumento, ID, ATM o passbook, insurance, at iba pa. This is a public service announcement. Public service announcement from PBS, Presidential Broadcast Service, and Radyo Pilipinas. This is a public service announcement.
Discipline is the key.
Umiwas sa aksidente sa daan. Ang pagmamaneho ay may kaakibat na responsibilidad. Hindi basta mapandar lang ang sasakyan.
Kilatisin ang sarili.
Ang kahandaan sa manibela. Siguruhin inyong konsentrasyon ay hindi magagambala. Importante rin na ating laging isipin. Init ng ulo ay huwag pairalin. Bagkus, kaligtasan ng lahat ang siyang dapat unahin.
Isang mahalaga.
Presidential Broadcast Service at Radyo Pilipinas, Radyo Publiko, 738.
This is a public service announcement. Public service announcement from PBS, Presidential Broadcast Service, at Radyo Pilipinas, Radyo Publiko, 738.
Maliwan mo sa tao na hindi totoo yan.
Dahil ang totoo, yung totoo, ang dapat ninyong malaman.
Nagkalat sa internet ang fake news o mali at news. Tinatakot niyo yung tao. What they are doing is creating panic.
We say no.
Yung pagkalat ng fake news. And some of it's dangerous.
Sana iwasan po natin pag-spread ng fake news.
At di magpapakalat ng disinformation at misinformation ang kasalukuyang administrasyon.
Stop telling us fake news because you're wrong.
Para sa totoo at mapagkakatiwala ang mga palit at impormasyon. Radyo Pilipinas.
PBS, Radyo Pilipinas, World Service, expanded its online presence. Besides our shortwave broadcast, BBS, Radyo Pilipinas World Service can also be heard Ebox PBS receiver on Google Play Store from your Android phone or via App Store from your iPhone. You can also watch our broadcast via Facebook YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Radyo Pilipinas World Service, the international broadcast station of the Presidential Broadcast Service.